I was loving her honestly, while she loved someone secretly. I didn't fall in love with her in a dramatic way. There was no thunder, no music, no moment that announced itself as destiny. It happened quietly, the way trust usually does. One normal day blended into another, and suddenly she was part of my routine, my thoughts, my plans. Loving her felt natural, honest, uncomplicated. I loved her in the small ways people rarely talk about. I remembered how she took her tea, noticed when her voice sounded tired, sent messages just to remind her she wasn't alone in the world. I showed up, not only when things were good, but especially when they weren't. I believed that love was built through consistency, not grand gestures. So I stayed consistent. She used to smile at me in a way that made me feel chosen. When she laughed, she leaned toward me, as if my presence grounded her. She told me I made her feel safe. I took those words seriously. I built my love around them. I thought safety was something you protect, not something you take advantage of. We talked about the future in soft tones, like it was something fragile that needed care. She spoke about dreams, about a life that included me so naturally that I never questioned my place in it. I listened closely, not because I doubted her, but because I wanted to understand her better. I wanted to grow into the person she deserved. While I was loving her honestly, she was learning how to hide. At first, there were no obvious signs. Nothing dramatic. Just small shifts that were easy to explain away. A little more distance. Slightly delayed replies. Her phone becoming something private instead of something casual. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, love requires trust, and I trusted her. I believed that if you love someone the right way, they won't look elsewhere. That belief wasn't naive. It was sincere. It came from how I loved her, not from arrogance. I wasn't perfect, but I was present. I wasn't exciting every day, but I was real. I thought that mattered. She started mentioning a new name occasionally, just in passing. Someone from work. Someone who understood her stress. Someone who made her laugh when days were heavy. I didn't feel threatened. I felt relieved that she had support. That's how deep my honesty went. I never imagined that support was turning into something else. There were nights she seemed far away even when she sat right next to me. Her eyes would drift, her thoughts clearly somewhere else. When I asked if she was okay, she always said yes. I believed her because I wanted to, because loving her honestly meant giving her the benefit of the doubt. The truth didn't reveal itself all at once. It came in fragments, like a puzzle I didn't want to complete. A message that disappeared too quickly. A smile at her phone that didn't include me. A sudden defensiveness when I asked harmless questions. Each piece alone meant nothing. Together, they formed something I wasn't ready to see. I remember the first time my chest felt tight for no clear reason. She was laughing at something on her phone, and when I asked what it was, she turned the screen away instinctively. The moment passed quickly, but something inside me shifted. Not anger, not jealousy, just confusion. I didn't confront her then. I didn't want to become suspicious or controlling. I didn't want to be the kind of man who doubts without proof. So I stayed quiet. I stayed kind. I stayed honest. What I didn't realize was that my silence was making room for her secret. She started changing in subtle ways. She cared more about how she looked when she wasn't with me. She seemed distracted during our conversations, as if she was responding to me out of habit rather than interest. When I talked about us, she listened politely but without enthusiasm. I blamed myself. I wondered if I was boring her, if I had become too predictable, if loving her steadily had somehow made me invisible. I tried harder, planned more, gave more. I thought effort would bring her back. Instead, it made it easier for her to hide. The day I found out wasn't dramatic either. No shouting, no sudden confession, just truth slipping through a crack she forgot to seal. She left her phone on the table and walked away. A message appeared. Not a name I recognized, but words I understood immediately. I miss you. Not the kind you send to a friend. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt strangely calm, like my body had already known. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. Everything I had ignored suddenly made sense. When she came back, she noticed my face first. She asked what was wrong, concern carefully practiced. I asked her who he was. Just that. Simple. Direct. She froze. That moment hurt more than the truth itself. Because in that pause, I realized she had been preparing for this day without me knowing. She had rehearsed excuses. She had measured words. She had lived a separate emotional life while sharing a physical space with me. She said it didn't mean anything. That it just happened. That she never intended for it to go that far. She said she still loved me. I listened quietly. Not because I agreed, but because I wanted to hear how easily honesty came to her now, after months of secrecy. I asked her one question that mattered most. How long? Her answer was softer than I expected, like she hoped softness would reduce the damage. But time doesn't shrink just because you whisper it. Every week she named felt like another reminder of how long I had been loving her alone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't beg her to choose me. Something in me refused to compete for a place I thought was already mine. What hurt most wasn't that she loved someone else. It was that she let me love her honestly while knowing she couldn't return it fully. She accepted my loyalty while dividing hers. She took my trust and treated it like a convenience. She cried. She apologized. She said she was confused. That word again. Confused. As if confusion explains deliberate secrecy. As if confusion sends messages late at night and deletes them in the morning. I realized then that honesty and secrecy can exist in the same relationship, but never on the same side. I walked away that night, not because I stopped loving her, but because I finally loved myself enough to stop pretending. Walking away was quiet. No slammed doors. No dramatic ending. Just a clear understanding that staying would mean betraying myself. The days after were heavy. Love doesn't disappear just because trust dies. I missed her voice. Her presence. The version of her I believed in. Grief came in waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes overwhelming. But beneath the pain was clarity. I stopped questioning my worth. I stopped replaying moments to see where I failed. I understood that loving honestly is never a mistake, even when it's given to the wrong person. Her secrecy was not a reflection of my inadequacy. It was a reflection of her choices. I learned that someone can enjoy being loved without being capable of loving the same way. That people sometimes keep one person for stability while giving their heart elsewhere. That honesty scares those who rely on hiding. With time, the hurt softened. Not because what she did became acceptable, but because I stopped carrying responsibility for it. I forgave her, not for reconciliation, but for my own peace. I began to rebuild quietly, just like I had loved. I focused on becoming whole again, not bitter. I kept my standards intact. I refused to let her secret turn me into someone suspicious or cold. One day, I realized something important. I didn't lose her. I lost the illusion of her. And in return, I gained myself. If you are reading this and you recognize yourself in my story, know this. Loving honestly is not weakness. It is courage. It is integrity. And when someone chooses secrecy over sincerity, the loss is theirs, not yours. I was loving her honestly while she loved someone secretly. But in the end, honesty stayed with me, and secrecy stayed with her. That made all the difference.